Alright, hey team. Welcome to an explanation video of your mathematics summative data investigation. So let's talk through the task description, okay? So your investigation needs to be a written report, okay? Maximum of 3 pages, including your tables, graphs, and your calculations. You'll need to also make sure that your assessment rubric is attached to the bottom of your document. In addition to your report, you're invited to make a 3 to 5 minute video of the way that you solve the answer to this problem for the Choose Mathematics competition. So feel free to do that along with your overall report. So this is to be completed in class and for homework. So you've had Thursday's lesson to start it. You have Tuesday's lesson in week 10, Thursday's lesson in week 10, and then Tuesday's lesson in week 11 to submit this task. Okay, so the question that you need to answer is, how healthy are Year 8 students on a daily basis? You might want to include, sleep, activity and fitness levels, healthy eating, or a different area of interest, that's relevant to you to try and answer this question. So you'll need to collect and analyse data from a sample of students from the Year 8 population. Now remember in class we talked about the difference between a sample and a population. So a sample is like a small snapshot of data, whereas a population is a larger it's a larger sample size. So it's a larger group of data that allows you to see a larger and more accurate pool of information. Your investigation must describe how your sample was chosen, and then it needs to also describe how you, and analyse whether it is a fair representation of the Year 8 population. Within your assessment, you need to consider the potential presence of outliers and how these might impact the results of your investigation. So like I said before, you must write this in the genre of an investigation report, and I'm going to go through that outline and that structure with you now. You can either type this or handwrite it for me. I don't mind, handwritten or type it, but you need to make sure that it is in the format of an investigation report, okay? And your rubric is here. So in order to achieve a C, you need to choose procedures and perform calculations with general accuracy and efficiency. You generally use appropriate symbols and representations and terminology. Now this is for fluency, okay? Your understanding, you demonstrate knowledge and understanding of a general range of maths concepts, and you make basic connections with related concepts. You solve routine and unfamiliar problems, and you generally interpret results appropriately and draw some logical conclusions. You communicate and you justify some of your thinking with some effectiveness. Looking further ahead, so in order to get an A, you comprehensively interpret your results and you draw logical conclusions. So you really break down, the data that you've collected, you really analyze it, and you show your working out, and you show your thought process and step by step. You accurately solve routine and complex, unfamiliar problems using a variety of highly effective strategies. You demonstrate a deep and broad knowledge and understanding of a range of maths concepts, and you make connections with related concepts. You choose correct procedures and perform calculations accurately, flexibly, and efficiently. You consistently and effectively use appropriate symbols, representations, and terminology. We will go through this in class, and you'll have a chance to peer review and peer mark each other's work and receive feedback in class. Let's have a look at the structure now. So, an investigation report is a formal written text used in mathematics, okay? So you need to make sure that you have your work divided into 3 sections. So your introduction, your application, and your conclusion. This needs to be written in the third person, okay? So we don't want to see any I, we, my, ours, or their language, okay? So within your introduction, you need to explain the problem that you're going to solve, and you need to describe the mathematics that you're going to be using to solve the problem. So what strategies, what formulas, and what technology? Are you going to collect your data using like SurveyMonkey online? Are you going to do it verbally by going into different classes and verbally asking questions? Or are you going to hand out a printed off or a written survey to collect your data? What formulas are you going to use? So what is the formula to calculate the mean? What is the formula to calculate the mode? And what is the formula to calculate the mean? you need to describe this here. It's also relevant here that you describe the questions that you're going to be using. So you need to have questions that are both numerical and categorical. So numerical data questions relate to data that can be collected in number format. Categorical data questions relate to data that can be collected in worded format. So when we're talking about a numerical question, you might ask someone, how many hours a week do you participate in physical activity? Or how many minutes a week do you participate in physical activity? This data you can collect in numerical form. However, you might also ask the participants what types of physical activity or activities do you participate in? That is a categorical question because you can collect these responses in worded form. Okay, so what type versus how many hours, categorical versus numerical. Hope that makes sense. Okay, team. When moving on to section B, your application, you need to summarize any relevant data or information that has been collected or provided, and that will be used to solve the problem. So you need to sort of state the data that we use in this investigation is, and the source of this data was. So where did you collect your data from? How did you collect your data? You don't want to repeat anything that you've said in section A, but it's important that you summarize your data and you also include the source of this data, where your data came from. You need to include all your mathematical calculations, your working out, and your results. So anything, the calculations of your mean, your median, your mode, your range, for each different data set or question that you've collected. You need to use appropriate representation, so tables, graphs, diagrams. Okay, so you need to include graphs for each question that you've included, and obviously the third dot point, the analysis of this data. So what did your results show? Is there a pattern or trend in your data? And after analysing the data, it is evident that ... So obviously the blue sections of this document are sentence starters, so ways that you could start your sentences. Are your results reasonable? Are your results as predicted? Do they seem correct, consistent with other information? So in your introduction, when you've described what healthy means and you've collected data from different papers or researchers that have previously collected data on healthy teenagers, you can use this information and relate it back to here. So if I didn't mention before, in section A, you need to describe and explain what healthy means for teenagers your age, okay? Making sure again that you don't use that personal language. The information that you collect here can be used back down in section B, where you compare your data to data that's previously been collected. You can talk about the accuracy of your data. Now, when we're talking about outliers, it's important that you calculate your mean, your median, and your mode with your outliers, and then take away your outliers and see how your data changes. So did your outlier affect the accuracy of your data? Did it not? Do your results appear to be reasonable, and why do they appear to be reasonable? Section C is your conclusion. So summarize your results and relate them back to the original problem. You need to outline the conclusions that have been made and then state what was discovered by completing the investigation. So some sentence starters that you can use in your conclusion are this problem that this investigation aimed to solve was, and then obviously repeat your question or your problem. After performing a number of calculations such as mean, median, mode, range, then talk about what happened when you calculated the mean, the median, the mode without the outliers. And then talk about it can be concluded that. So what can you conclude from the data that you've collected? What do the results show? As a result of completing this investigation, it has been discovered that ... So obviously I can't tell you the answers to these questions. These are only sentence starters, and you need to first of all collect your data and then analyze your data. I hope this has helped. If you need any other help, please send me an email. Good luck.